Imola. Scene of triumph, scene of tragedy. And for the first time ever this weekend, sim racing. Specifically SRO's virtual competition, which has real-world championship consequences for the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS teams. 24 GT3 drivers split across two classes will compete inside this, the Fanatec Arena. Welcome everyone to Season 2 of the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series. '21 was a massive year in the world of SRO Esports. Not only did we have the Fanatec Arena hosting the Fanatec GT Pro Series on site, but we also had online championships across Asia, Europe, Americas and Britain. Let's now recap the last 12 months.
The best GT and sim drivers in the world.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Not make it out this time. I can't take this mess no more. If the water keeps rising high, I won't make it out alive. In over my head, in over my head. In locked down, push around, scared as hell. I'm not being dead. In over my head, in over my head.
Busy on a mission.
Can't breathe, can't see. I'm never gonna leave this heaven I'm living in. In over my head, in over my head. I've heard it all before, but can't see the light no more. This fear's rising up in my chest, and night never brings me no rest. Oh, my throat's too sore to scream. Can't nobody wake me up from this dream. If the flood waters don't recede, well, I swear they're gonna bury me. In over my head, in over my head. In locked down, push around, scared as hell. I might be till I'm dead. In over my head, in over my head. Can't breathe, can't see. I'm never gonna leave this heaven I'm living in. In over my head.
James Baldwin is our new champion in the endurance of the sprint series. A fantastic year, a fantastic new champion.
Professional sim racers, professional real-world drivers winning championships in the virtual world. But that was the past, and now let's look to the future. And the SRO Esports once again kicks off at a new venue for 2022. This, of course, beautiful Imola in Italy. SRO have been tinkering with the regulations over the winter to place even more emphasis from the virtual world into the real world championship points for Season 2 of the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series. Let's now take a look at the new regulations. First up, the entries. As before, each overall and silver class team contesting both Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS's Sprint and Endurance Cups must also enter the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series. However, this year's starting grid is capped at 12 Pro and 12 Silver cars. To achieve that number, a form of hot lap qualifying has been introduced after each driver's practice session, which determines the 24 drivers progressing to Saturday's 1-hour qualifying and race. Those teams with multiple real-world entries may only enter one car per class per race. However, nominated drivers can be changed on a per-event basis, provided they are part of a particular team's real-world crew at that particular round. The top 5 finishers in each class now score points on a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 basis. That's an increase from the top 3 last year and boosts the maximum number of points available across the virtual season from 15 to 25. That could prove vital in the real world overall and silver teams championships. 2 new cars also joined the real and virtual series this year, the BMW M4 GT3 and the new Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2. And Imola makes its Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series debut after Italy's Endurance Cup race was staged in Monza last year. Trips to Paul Ricard, Spa and Barcelona also mirror Fanatec's GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS's calendar, while the 5th circuit will be selected by a fan vote for the 4th round of the championship. Meanwhile, alongside the Pro Series, SRO's online sim racing series have been repackaged this year. The Mobileye GT World Challenge Esports Championships in Europe, Asia and America will comprise 5 sprint races, whilst the various endurance events have now been grouped together under the Intercontinental GT Challenge Esports Championship powered by Mobileye. Lots to look forward to, both here in Imola and as the year progresses, including Mobileye's 4 online championships. Europe's opening round takes place in Misano next weekend, before Asia, America and the IGTC also stage their season openers in April. And now you're up to speed with everything SRO Esports for 2022. It's time to focus on this historic Imola circuit. Playing host for the first time to our virtual competition, let's jump into Assetto Corsa Competizione with our Silver Team's championship winner from last year, Mad Panda's SRO Perez Compact. Our first track comparison of the 2022 season, and we've chosen one of our champions to join us for the first round. We didn't speak to SRO Perez Compact last year, but a champion in the silver category. How was that first inaugural season for you?
Yeah, it was really good, to be honest. We're quite happy. Now it's good to be back at Imola, where we had our first race with the team. So yeah, looking forward to this weekend.
Not a brand new track for you, but a brand new track for the Pro Series. Show us a lap of this amazing circuit, because it is such a challenge for drivers.
Yeah, so exiting the last corner, we have a really long straight. So this is a really nice chance to overtake.
And into the first corner, very, very high speed these days. With that chicane now gone, you are really approaching a terminal velocity.
Yes, this is really nice to follow cars as well. Going into turn 1, it's the best chance to overtake cars. So yeah, you see it's a heavy braking. You try to arrive to the curves, maybe not too much on the yellows because you go flying, but it's a really fast section. It's really lovely once you hit it right.
So that's through the Tamburello corner. We're going up to Villeneuve. Again, a chicane, but they all have different feeling here, right?
Yeah, the entry is really, really tough to get the rear on the ground. So yeah, for sure you have to carry a lot of speed in, but it's super nice.
Crucial corner here. Very slow, but important for the drag up the hill.
Yes, you have to focus a lot on the exit since it's uphill, and yeah, it's also a nice chance for overtaking, so it's super nice.
Just how hard is the next corner, Piratella, to find the braking zone and to get the maximum speed through the downhill corner?
Yeah, the key here is the exit, being on the limit. It's really easy to go over the limit and getting track limit warnings, so yeah, you have to be conservative but aggressive at the same time.
Acqua Minerale, another of the legendary corners around the circuit. We talk about the curbs. Curbs are different in the sim to the real world, but not too different. How do you treat them differently in these two competitions?
Well, you have to be really smooth with them, for sure you have to cut a lot, but yeah, a smart cutting. But yeah, this track is like a roller coaster, it's lovely, and once you get the flow going, it's amazing.
And amazing again how Assetto Corsa Competizione simulates this track in the virtual world.
Yeah, they did a mega job, to be honest. It's really nice to train before the race weekends on the simulator because it's so close to real life that yeah, you can do a pretty good preparation for the race weekend.
Well, there's a lap around this wonderful Imola circuit. How do you think you're going to fare this season? Because surely the level's gone up since last year.
Yes, we're really looking forward for this year. We have 18 silver cars as well. It's a massive grid, and yeah, we come with some upgrades ourselves. So yeah, really looking forward to scoring podiums this year.
Have a good one. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And now the Fanatec Arena is full of people. Great to see not only 24 Fanatec sims, but also a huge crowd in the centre of the paddock here in Imola. Alongside me is Real World GT World Challenge by AWS commentator David Addison to call us through the virtual race before the real action begins on Sunday.
This is like my qualifying session, is it?
This
is my
yeah.
warm-up, yeah. So we are set for, no doubt about it, a very interesting race indeed, because, of course, as you made the point, Imola is new to the endurance calendar and our esports calendar, so it's another step into the unknown for some of them. And we've got some drivers, of course, new to the championship this year who are therefore new to at least this esports pro series. They may have done a fair amount of esports in the past, but this is all something new for them. And we have, of course, also this year our new partnership with the assisted driving technology expert Mobileye. So it's an interesting partnership, an exciting partnership, and one that I'm sure is going to bring rewards.
Here is the grid then for our first race. Of course, last year we did not visit Imola circuit. We were at Monza for the first round in Italy, but great to be here in Imola, a second generation circuit for Assetto Corsa Competizione. It wasn't on the original initial release, and so even more expertly scanned by Kunos Simulazione, who build the ACC platform, now with Cup cars, with GT4 cars, and a new spec of GT3 to represent what we see in the real world, including the M4 GT3 and the new Evo of the R8 LMS. We'll see both of those represented on the grids today. And as David said, we've seen plenty of new drivers at the head of the field. We've seen returning drivers. We know Danny Yuki is incredibly strong, but we also have a pseudo-celebrity in Nicky Team, who not only is a lover of sim racing, but actually ran his own YouTube channel for a while until I think a baby got in the way, basically, which has stopped him from doing quite as much. But a well-followed, real-world racing driver, but also handy in the sim.
So, looking down on the grid with Neil Verhagen for BMW lining up on pole position. Yuki Namoto with him at the front. The second row of the grid, Alex Arca and Danny Juncadella. Arthur Rougier starts fifth ahead of Luca Giotto. Then Nicky Team, Yusup Pohako, Dries Van Thorn 9th, and Brendan Leach 10th. Mathieu Cairoli will start 11th ahead of Ezequiel Perez Compact. Then there is Dennis Lind and Lucas Legare. Nicholas Nielsen is 15th with Ethan Simoni 16th ahead of Constant Lapalainen, Joel Sturm, Thomas Omoska, Janis Fitgier 20th, Lorenzo Petresi 21st, Jeff Kingsley 22nd, Marvin Kirchhofer and Fabian Schiller on the back row of the grid. Lots of new names to the Esports Pro Series. Lots of interested teams, interested parents watching on as well. And Neil Verhagen, the BMW Junior, aboard number 50 on pole position. Why is it 50? Because we're celebrating 50 years of the BMW M brand.
Now, you remember that BMW came into the championship last year quite weak with David Pittard, and he didn't really have any work support. But then Pittard started to get some support from champion driver Nils Naujoks, and this year BMW have absolutely come in aggressively. Nils Verhagen has been training hard over the winter with Nils Naujoks to make sure they've got the best setup for this car at this track, and to make sure Verhagen drives the sim in the way a sim should be driven rather than drive it in the way that you drive a real car, because there are differences between the two.
So the cars then on this formation lap. Remember, it is a 1 hour race. There is a mandatory pit stop. There is a pit window, and the race set for just after 5 o'clock local time. So in real terms, that means that it's a nice sunny day. Lots of rubber has been junked onto the road from previous sessions, just as it would have been in the real world. And 88, Danny Juncadella's Mercedes, of course, all the cars with the correct liveries for the new season here. Danny Juncadella's Mercedes starting 4th on the grid. Arthur Rougier, certainly a man to watch after his efforts last year in the championship. He will go from 5th, but Niall Verhagen then is the man that starts on pole position. He is certainly a man to watch. Yuki Namoto lining up with him in the VS Racing Lamborghini there, the green car on the outside of the front row. And lots of not just mobile eyes, but watchful eyes on the proceedings right now. As we look down onto the drivers in the sim rigs, they are, of course, taking this deadly seriously. It's not just a bit of fun, because there are points at stake here for the teams in the overall championship, taking endurance and sprint results together, these Fanatec boost points. More important this year because they go down to 5th place, and therefore you get 5 for a win, increased from 3, so they're of greater importance this year.
Yeah, effectively you've got 25 points on offer across the whole season, which is the equivalent to a win.
Yes, that's right.
So really what we found last year with the top 3, with only scoring points for 6 cars on a 24-car grid, we found that actually the bottom half was a bit chaotic and there wasn't really much to race for if you were out of the top 6. Now, effectively half the grid get points, and therefore we should see cleaner racing throughout the whole pack rather than just at the front of the field.
So the cars will make their way in a moment down towards Rivazza. Now this section of the circuit, the Variante Alto, was the scene of much talk in free practice this morning, with track limits not being observed, and therefore the marker cone being demolished and full course yellow to put it back, and demolished and full course yellow to put it back, and so on and so on and so on. Hopefully we won't have any such dramas in the game. Now, of course,
that's one of the brilliant things about the game, because the game decides. We don't have any human needing to interfere with that whatsoever. If the game thinks you've made an advantage, it gives you a penalty.
And I was coming to that, because there are penalties that can be applied from the stewards that sit over our shoulder here in the back of the arena, but also the game itself can instigate penalties. And that could be one, because there you've got the Lamborghini almost tripping over the opposition and coming down the pit lane.
That looks to me like Arthur Rougier, our champion from last year, heading into pit lane. No reason yet as to why that would be.
But you're right, he is in the pit, so we'll see whether he starts at all. So we are about to go racing then. The first round of the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series from Imola set to get underway.
Waiting for those red lights to turn green. They're in there. Pace, and now we can go fully racing. Look to the left-hand side. Where's Arthur Rougier? He's not there. We've got drive-through penalties automatically awarded for drivers who perhaps have slightly jumped the start. We've got cars on the grass as well on the outside in the middle of the field. It's such a hard first corner, Tamburello, to get everybody threaded through, but they have done so far.
I'm not sure they have. I thought in the middle of the pack there were people going sideways, so Luca Giotto might have been in strife, one and two others. There were drive-through penalties being applied, as you said. But Verhagen is away nicely with, right up behind him, then Yuki Namoto. But we've got yellow flags out. We've got a bit of a gap before 3rd. He's Danny Junkadea. In 4th place, I would offer you, is Alex Arca as the cars climb up through Tosa for the first time. But the top 2 escaping. Nicky Thiem is there in 5th spot. But certainly there were cars going sideways through Tamburello, and that means the order is shuffled a bit lower down.
Yeah, Giotto turns to the tail of the field. Brendan Leach also having an issue. Kepelainen just had an issue in the 3rd of our turns. Legray's facing the wrong direction. Plenty of people struggling over those first couple of corners. Fabian Schurrer didn't take qualifying at all. Oh, wow. Okay, that's how you do it. Straight out. Matteo Cairoli deciding that it is game over. Did he even finish a lap? No, he didn't. But
no.
It's been exactly like that through most of his esports year last year as well.
Yes, if you're not going to get a result, what's the point? You can do something else for an hour, go talk to the team. So we lose Matteo Cairoli, and Arthur Rougier is still shown as being in the pit lane. So the cars come downhill for the first time, down towards Rivazza. Nicky Thiem right on the back there of Alex Arca. It is the Audi just ahead of the virtual Aston Martin. I wonder if there's virtual ice cream to go with it from Beach Gene as they come up towards the line at the end of lap 1. It is Niall Verhagen in the lead then. Yuki Namoto runs 2nd, and then 3rd Danny Junkadea, 4th is Arca, 5th is Thiem, 6th is Yusuf Kohaka. So you've got both the Attempto cars within the top 6, and look at this, Nicky Thiem, he's right there on the back of Alex Arca, almost gives him a little tap, now lines up for a go on the inside, last of the late breakers to Tamburello, done it, bit of contact, but Nicky Thiem goes through.
And applause in the arena from the crowd. Fantastic to hear. Nicky Thiem getting himself up to speed. Not necessarily the kind of simulator he would find most comfortable with, but has certainly adapted well. He's got a good sim at home. We've got other cars facing not facing the wrong direction, but losing time. Dennis Lynn in the 111.
I think he's on the ascendancy, because I think Lorenzo Petresi was one that was all sideways. So Dennis Lynn, who's another sim star,
Yeah.
we've learned in the past, reigning British GT champion in a Lamborghini, now in the McLaren, and he is crawling all over the back of Dries Van Voor.
Dennis Lynn has done a huge amount on other platforms and has been a champion in sim racing. Kind of used sim racing when he wasn't able to get himself a real world drive. Hasn't necessarily adapted that well to ACC. We haven't seen him on the online championships particularly strong, or these Pro Series races. He didn't do the full season last year. We saw him at the last round, I think, but right in the middle of the pack right now in 11th spot, and crucially just outside points paying positions.
So he's inching his way forward, but we've still got 56 minutes and a bit still to go. So Dennis Lynn accelerates out of the Valiante Alta. Ahead of him, the man that he's chasing is Dries Van Voor. So we've got Rouget is effectively a non-starter. You've got Dennis Lynn here charging down the hill, but Van Voor, I would offer you, is getting away by a couple of lengths. The Audi just gapping the McLaren there.
And what we know from last year is that WRT, who Dries Van Voor is driving for, make a huge amount of effort in making sure this part of the championship is well considered and they can pick up decent points from it. We saw last year Rio Tomita was on the podium and more than one occasion in the Silver Cup, and Kevin van der Linde took a victory in the early part of the year in the overall, as we see a change for Brendan Leach going up into 14th position.
Yes, Tomita from memory had an outright win, didn't he, even at the Nürburgring. So cars now work their way down towards the Villeneuve chicane, looking there at the fight going on between. In 27, that is Brendan Leach. Joel Sturm, the GT4 graduate, is behind in the Porsche from the Allied Racing stable. The Leipzig Motorsport Lamborghini then hangs on to position. Now the lead is extending. Neil Verhagen is getting away from Yuki Namoto, and he in turn is busy defending from Danny Junqueira. There's Danny hard at work, but Mobileye, all about innovation. Junqueire's got to be innovative, I think, here in order to find a way past Namoto, because at the moment he hasn't got the answer.
Well, last year Mercedes-Benz did not even have an esports team in the virtual world. They didn't have an organisation that supported Mercedes-Benz drivers in the virtual racing. Since around the middle part of last year, they now have a works Mercedes-Benz esports team run by Jan Seifert, one-time real world driver,
yes, of course, yeah.
And he now very much brings a cohesion to all of these drivers that drive for Mercedes in various championships, and that has only helped Danny Yucadella and helped Espil Perez Compact to extract more pace out of the ACC platform.
We had a couple of cars being investigated for being out of position at the start, but no action taken about that, and there is one car under investigation for causing a collision. It's Dennis Lynn. Ooh. Currently, he is to be found in 11th place, but he might not be for much longer. Now, the Mercedes getting themselves together. The Mad Panda Motorsport car there, busy battling.
Perez Compact ahead of Moscow for the moment, but it is Thomas Moscow all over the tail of the Mad Panda Motorsport machine that we saw as our Silver Cup champion last year. Across the 5 events, picking up the most points. I don't think Perez Compact actually took an outright victory, and actually he was subbed out on the last round, even though he picked up points in every single one of them for another driver who has now moved teams.
Drive-through penalty for Dennis Lynn, causing a collision at turn 2 on the opening lap of the race. I think we said that people were getting all sideways, so Dennis the Menace gets a drive-through for it, and that is bad, bad, bad news. Compact still under huge pressure. Tommaso Mosca right up behind him, but they're going to gain places, of course, if others have dramas ahead. Those behind Dennis Lynn are certainly going to gain once he makes that drive-through.
Well, Lynn was in 13th at the start, and Matteo Cairoli was in 11th at the start, so make your assumptions.
Yes, quite. Are these two things related? Neil Verhagen doing a very, very good job, isn't he? 2.8 seconds to the good now, and so pulling clear of Yuki Namoto. So Neil Verhagen new to this championship, but the BMW junior driver, and esports, as you made the point, is a key part of BMW's programme for the juniors. He's putting it all into good practice right now.
Yeah, Neil's living at the BMW house at the Nürburgring as part of the junior team, and running in the VLN last year in the GT4 car as part of that package. They used to have sims in the house, but apparently those sims have now moved.
Right.
So if he needs to go and practice, he has to go elsewhere. Another retirement.
Yeah. That is Marvin Kirchhofer, I think, is it not? Leaving the game. So Dennis Lynn is in the pit because he's doing his drive-through. Marvin Kirchhofer has retired the Jota McLaren.
But more significantly, Arthur Rouget's visit to the pits was a retirement before the start of the race. So that seems very, very strange that he didn't even get a chance to feel the car. But that's our champion from last year. 0 points out of this first race. And you would expect it to him very much to be at the sharp end, or at least picking up points from every one of the races as he did last year. He wasn't always the star of the show, but he was consistent.
Absolutely. And Dennis Lind has come into the pits and is shown as still being in there. So I fear we're about to lose another one from the race, rather than just serve the drive-through and try and salvage what you can out of it. Of course, that's part of the dilemma for the drivers. With points going only to 5th, it's very, very hard to make up anything after a penalty. So do you try? Do you go back out again? I
think at the start of last season you would, because you knew that there was so much chaos going on outside on circuit, and there were people always falling off the track. Now these guys, certainly the ones in their second year, have started to get a really good feel for this. Those that have been on the sidelines perhaps in GT4 last year, but seen this happening as well as wanting to graduate into GT3, knew that if they could get themselves fast in the sim, and they could go to a team and say, look, you can have me as a driver, but you can also have me in the Fanatec Arena scoring extra points for you. I wonder how much of a sweetener that was to some of our teams.
True enough. So Dennis Lind out of the race, Marvin Kirchhofer out of the race, Arthur Rouget never really got into the race, and Thomas Mosca there goes through hunting down Ezequiel Perez Companc. Now remember that they are from the silver competition. We've got the pros up front as over the timing line. The next little battle, Fabian Schiller tries to get up past the Audi in the hands of Lorenzo Petresi there, and should be able to do it. I would have thought the grunt of the Mercedes carries him by. Does it on the outside line? Yes, it does. So Fabian Schiller goes 18th now, hunting his way up the order.
I don't know whether Fabian missed got the timing wrong or something like that, but he wasn't here for qualifying. His sim was vacated, had to be collected and brought down here. Now, we didn't have just 24 entries this weekend. We had 29 entries, and we had pre-qualifying, so all the drivers had to set a time to get themselves into this race. We have 13 pros, so 1 pro had to go, and then the rest were the Silver Cup cars. So we did lose 4 or 5 machines before we even got into this race. A mistake there from Perez Companc at Aqua Minerale, and here comes Mosca on the inside line. He has the momentum as well, and usually this is not a great place to pass, but there is no option for Perez Companc. Mosca goes himself up into 7th position.
Yeah, Thomas Mosca was way, way back on the grid, wasn't he, on the anti-penultimate row, so he's made very good progress. He was one of the beneficiaries, I think, of the earlier dramas. We've lost another one somewhere, because 24 were on the grid, 23 are accounted for on the timing screen.
Yeah, Caroli doesn't show on the timing screen.
No, that's right. So the Porsche didn't really get into the race at all. So we've got, of this first round of the championship, the first 10 minutes done. Neil Verhagen's advantage is 3.5 seconds. Last time around, personal best lap by Yuki Namoto, but not good enough to bring down the gap against the leader.
Let's not also forget that Verhagen is driving the newly introduced M4 GT3 car. Not only, of course, we saw it quite a bit last year in the real world at various championships, and making kind of one-off appearances in the Endurance Championship at the GT World Challenge, but we didn't see it on the sim, and we have, that's a bit physical.
It was indeed. That was Lucas Legere on Joel Sturm, and the Audi comes off worse because Luca Giotto manages to split them. And also with them is Consta Lapalainen now, look, in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini, which goes up on the inside line. So Legere tried to gain a place. He's ended up being roughed up and losing out, and Giotto's off the road, really in avoidance of Joel Sturm. The Audi there came across the Porsche going a little bit slowly. Giotto is on a mission here to gain ground, and he's done it.
Nice move using the grass as well. That car would not have been particularly stable, bouncing all over the grass, but Giotto gets himself up into 13th now. But he's still got a couple of places before he's going to score points.
And it's points in the class, don't forget, not just, it's not overall, it is the top 5 of the pros and of the silvers, as Joel Sturm then drops down the hill, but he's lost out to Consta Lapalainen. Verhagen 3.5 seconds to the good, make that 4 seconds to the good at the next timing point. Verhagen has also done the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 42.132. So this is the view of Lucas Legere. They bounce over the curve at the Variante Alta, back on the power, ready to drop downhill once again.
Talking to the drivers, they do feel as though the curbs feel the same as out in the real world, but you know that you can be more aggressive in the sim because the cars are less likely to break than we saw perhaps from our real world counterparts. And once again, touring car style racing, he gets wiped out. A little bit some of these drivers in their first race on the ACC platform and perhaps performing like they wouldn't on the real world.
Well, that was Joel Stern versus Lucas Legere. Legere, I was about to tell you, was being given a warning for an unsafe return to the circuit from the dramas up at Tamburello, but now he's in the gravel anyway, so it's all a little bit academic. But yes, as ever, keeping out of trouble is key to all of this. And I think Lucas Legere has decided that maybe that's that.
Yeah, into the pits, cap on, and park it up, and he can go for an early dinner.
So we've lost Rougier, Kirchhoffer, Cairoli, Lynn, Legere. There's another car running way off the road there. Look, you can see the dust settling. So that would be possibly Fabian Schiller. It was that kind of area. So, race order. Verhagen from Namoto from Junkadea to as ever thus. Nicky Tim is 4th, Alex Arca 5th, Yusuf Ohaka 6th. Then it's Mosca, Van Thor, Compact, and Nicholas Nielsen is now into the top 10. Off goes Lucas Legere. And Tommaso Mosca being given a 15-second penalty for causing a collision at Tosa on the opening lap of the race. So the head steward and race director Ryan Gill confirms the reason for the penalty, and it is for causing a collision at Tosa on the opening lap of the race. Tommaso Mosca 7th, 15-second penalty.
Oh, that drops him out of the points-paying positions as well. That will certainly put him behind Brendan Leach. At the moment has 1 point, down in 11th position, but 5th of our silver cars. And Dries van Thor now gets himself past on track Thomas Mosca.
So the Audi goes ahead of the Mercedes, but Tommaso Mosca tries to fight back, gets a bit of a squeeze, so he can't get up alongside there, approaching Tamburello. Slots back in behind. They're both being caught again by Ezequiel Perez Compact. Neil Verhagen's just driving off into the distance. This is some debut for him.
Absolutely. The preparation has been good, and shout out to the BMW Esports guys for the support that they've given Neil Verhagen over the winter. They knew this was the next step for their BMW Junior driver. And they knew that they could benefit both in the Fanatec Arena as well as out on circuit from the Rover driver. 2 full pro cars for the Endurance Series means that they only need to enter 1 into this championship.
So Dries van Thor then accelerates downhill. The WRT Audi currently is 5th in pro, so it's got the final point going its way. The drivers don't take the points, they go to the teams for the overall championship. Tommaso Mosca behind him is the 3rd of those in silver. But Neil Verhagen well clear up front. Yuki Namoto, to be fair to him, a good debut because he also is leading his class, he's 2nd overall. But it is a category lead for the VS Racing Lamborghini.
Let's not forget they have a penalty. They have a pit stop to do.
Yes.
They don't have much to do in that pit stop, but that number 1 with the orange background on the left-hand side shows you if they have or haven't made the pit stop. And here is this replay of the start. We're looking at Dries van Thor there in the middle of the pack. And let's see what we can see from the contact into turn 1.
So Dennis Lind, I think, got a bit of a tap, and others, yes,
there's a lot
lots of people found people to barge into.
It almost looked a little bit like they were checking up, and because Dennis was so far back, he was the one that ended up carrying the most momentum into the accident.
But being given a whack that knocked him forward, yeah. So that was part of the sort out at the opening part of the race. Dries van Thor then, who from memory was quick at the Nürburgring last year, but then got a penalty and fell down the order. He's under attack again from Tommaso Mosca. He's just got past him, but he's not getting away, is he?
A look at our rigs, absolutely identical rigs supplied by Fanatec. Pedals and steering systems. And then all of the paraphernalia and buttons to allow the drivers to real time make the switches to the brake balance, to the engine modes, for fuel saving if need be. Sometimes some circuits, some cars do need a little bit of fuel saving to get through to the full hour.
So Neil Verhagen, the race leader, now by at the end of the lap it was 4.6 seconds. Around the circuit it's crept up to close to 5, but Yuki Namoto is just not able to stay with him. Danny Junkadea is still there in 3rd place. Now you could argue that Danny should be the more likely a winner. He's the more experienced in this championship of those leading 3, but he's just not quite able to get onto terms with Namoto, and in turn Verhagen is stretching the gap all the time.
And what we also know is the Mercedes particularly is a car that has a real sweet spot and can be very, very strong at some circuits, but less strong at others. Maybe the more fiddly nature, even if it's quite high speed, of Imola doesn't necessarily suit the Mercedes as well as other brands. And we do have a BOP that is bespoke to this championship rather than brought over from the real world, or indeed brought over from the online championships that will begin next Wednesday. And it's specific to this to try and balance the cars as much as possible. But that does sometimes mean they're better at some circuits than others.
You also get a feeling for just how much curb is used. Dries van Voor there rattling it over the curb, coming through the Villeneuve chicane, sets the car up for the left-hander of Corsa. So you can see the drivers at work. This is what the view from Tommaso Mosca's Acodis ASP team Silver Cup Mercedes is like, up towards the Piratella again. Use the curb on the inside, run it out wide but not too wide. That effectively is the racing line, as then you plunge downhill once again and stand on the brakes down to Acqua Minerale now. Mosca gets a good run up the hill. Trouble is, by the time he gets to the corner, it's such a narrow entry to the chicane, there's not really room there, so he's got to sit tight behind the Audi.
Great to hear the simulated sounds of the engines that are so well perfected in this ACC platform. Really, if you shut your eyes, you'd think you're in the real world. And sometimes when you open your eyes as well, it's so realistic.
Yeah, the pictures are always outstanding. Now there's a drive-through going the way of number 159, which is Ethan Simeone for the Garage 59 McLaren squad. So that is 14th, and that could be another retirement, because drivers, if they have a drive-through, they tumble so far off the pace, out of the points, that they elect sometimes not to continue. But Simeone gets a drive-through.
One tumbling down to the bottom of the field, Jeff Kinsley for the Get Speed Performance Mercedes was up in 15th position, I think, now down in 18th spot, so we might be seeing, he's way off the back of the field now. So a big mistake from Jeff, whether he'll decide to continue or not. We'll get to a point where it will be worth continuing again, because there'll be so many cars that have retired. You still score points if you do make a big mistake.
And we've also lost Fabian Schiller, have we not? So that's another car that has headed to the pit lane and retirement. Right, Ethan Simeone is in. So Simeone, for his drive-through, comes into the pit lane. Whether he rejoins or not, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, at the moment we've got just 7 pro cars. So only 2 of those 7 are not scoring points right now. Nicholas Nilsson in 10th position is the first to miss out on points. Van Thor with the 1 point, Puka with the 2 points, Team with 3, Junkadella with 4, and Verhagen with 5. There is Nicky Team.
And he is closer to Junkadella than Junkadella is to Namoto now. It's only 0.3 of a second between them, so the Aston Martin not out of the hunt yet, is it? Certainly for an overall place. And now Simeone's been given a stop-go 30-second penalty, legend. And he also receives a 5-second penalty for overtaking with unnecessary contact against Luca Giotto.
All right, maybe it is time to give up then for the moment. I wonder whether that stop-go penalty is an automatic one from inside the game.
Certainly not come up on the stewarding channel, so it might well be. Right, Giotto here is... Sorry, not Giotto, I'll tell you a lie. Patrese is under attack from Joel Sturm. Now, Joel, of course, was involved in that incident, was he not, with Lucas Legere? So there might be more in the system about him yet, but still to come.
As per usual, race control super busy in these sim races. Plenty to decipher. They've obviously got far more angles than you would do in the real world to play with. They can really follow every single car at every single angle, bespokely move the mouse around to see exactly how the contact was made, what's been going on inside the cockpit of these drivers. So you really can't get away with anything naughty in the virtual world, in a way that perhaps in the real world sometimes you just go, maybe they weren't watching.
And you hope for the best. Yes.
They're definitely watching here.
Absolutely right, yes. Not just mobile eye, steward's eyes, race control eyes. There, number 11 goes through. So Lorenzo Patrese keeping Joel Sturm at bay. This is letting Janis Fittke get away, look, further up the road in the Mercedes. Number 4, the former F4 racer. Neil Verhagen now 6 seconds to the good. 38 minutes still on the clock. So Lorenzo Patrese, whose father Ricardo, of course, raced here as a Grand Prix driver, currently down in 15th spot. Joel Sturm behind 16th in the Porsche. So where's the next battle going to come from? I still think it's Nicky Tim on Danny Juncadella for 3rd place overall.
And Tommaso Mosca now's 15-second penalty is switched to a drive-through, so that is a real disaster. They'll definitely put him outside at the points-paying positions in the Silver Cup. Not sure exactly what he's done wrong to end up with an extra boost to his penalty. Just 3/10 off the back of Dries van Thor, and looked very happy just to be following Van Thor around. They're in different categories anyway, so there was not really much worth fighting for. Whereas Patrese and Stern here, part of the silver class. Ragged. One moment they're absolutely locked together, and the next moment there's a couple of seconds gap between the two of them.
So does that mean that the Audi works better at certain parts than the Porsche? Or
No, I think it's
purely down to the driver?
I think there's a little bit of inexperience going on from some of the guys a bit further down. They need a few more laps on ACC before the next round.
Right, Simeone is now just being shown with his 5-second penalty, so the plot thickens there. Tommaso Mosca is now going to drive through, so the man in 8th place being given a drive-through penalty as well. And he is currently 3rd in silver, so I would suggest it's worth him staying out there after the drive-through, see what he can salvage.
See how big the gaps begin to form further back. One of the things we won't be getting is safety cars. We won't have the fields squeezed back together. We will have the randomness of the pit stops, which we saw last year affect the wins of races actually by the way you go into pit lane, the way you activate your pit stop. Here's the leader. We haven't seen too much of the American, but that's what their car looks like. The beautiful new M4 GT3 with, of course, in the real world, a sim racing steering wheel that is used both in the real world, but also can be put onto these rigs right here and used. I don't think Neil Verhagen is allowed to, just to keep all the equipment fair.
Fair enough. Dust being kicked up ahead of him. Now he's about to get some traffic, isn't he? So Jeff Kingsley there is ahead, and it's going to go a lap down. But Jeff Kingsley might gain places towards the end of the race, so it's worth staying out. So damage on the front of that Mercedes. Have a quick look. Looks like the front's sort of peeling up, almost like the bonnet's lifting. There is Neil Verhagen, a study of concentration at work, but he's making this look easy.
Eyes darting all over the place, looking in the mirrors, checking to see he's cleared. You do have various assists on the screen to show you if you have an overlap with another car. You have far more visibility in a sim than you do in the real world, because of the way that the radar system in ACC that kind of shows you how your car positions against the other cars around you. That's particularly useful when people are dive bombing you up the inside and your car suddenly turns red, and as you're turning in, you know if you're going to turn in, you're going to spin because you're going to be spun around. Pit lane open, pit window, I should say, is now open and open for 10 minutes. Of course, no driver changes for the moment in this championship.
And here, Joel Sturm lines up to have another go at Patrese. This is only for 15th place, but it's a great battle. And through goes the Porsche. So Joel Sturm has finally done it. He's gone back ahead of the Audi. And they're both in silver. So it does matter as far as they are concerned to get up the order. And also if others ahead have problems, like Tommaso Mosca, for example, with his drive-through that's yet to be served. So Janis Fit here in the blue and white Mercedes 14th. Bit of a gap back to this fight. Nicky Tim dropping away again from Danny Juncadella. So a few laps ago, it looked like it might be on for him to be able to make a move. Now, though, he's falling away once more.
One car we really haven't seen too much of is the car in second position, leading our Silver Cup, which is Yuki Namoto. A Japanese driver is piloting for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, and memory serves, we didn't see that team in this championship last year either.
No, I think they concentrated largely on Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but now stepping up to the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. So it's good to have VS, Vincenzo Sospiri's team, on the grid, and Yuki Namoto going really well, leading in silver. So fans look on, teams look on, and the drivers on the other sides of them hard at work. You can see where the different drivers are around the circuit from what their arms are up to. Some are sort of going past the pits, others going through a tight corner. You can see the hands and the arms cross. And somebody there just flexing his wrist. And
yeah, it's Brendan Leach, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You're right. Brendan Leach, who is to be found 12th and in the pits. And that's the mandatory stop, isn't it? Because on that timing graphic, but one means you've got a pit stop to do, and once it goes green, it means it's clear to the end of the race.
The other person also pitting was Mosca, but I don't think he appears on our timing screen because Yeah, he's been disqualified. He should have taken his drive-through penalty within 3 laps, hasn't done so, and therefore has been dumped out of the race. So that's a real shame for the 87 Mercedes that was certainly in the points before the various penalties, but could have still been in there and thereabouts if he'd actually obeyed the penalty. And again, these two are at it.
So Patrese is back ahead of Sturm. It's trading at almost lap by lap, this place. So we've lost Schiller, we've lost Legere, we've lost Lynn, we've lost Kirchhofer, Rougier, and now Thomas O'Mosca, plus Matteo Cairoli, of course. He never really got into the race. Right, Sturm has another go to get his place back. He's on the outside line up towards Variante Alta. He's not going to do it there, especially if there's a bit of a rub between them, but he tries the outside line, goes over the curb. He's going to go out wide, and Patrese tries to sneak back on him, but he can't do it. The Porsche stays ahead.
For the moment, but it's great entertainment, isn't it? It's completely unorthodox racing where they're overtaking, how they're battling, but they certainly are having fun. There's no doubt about that. Trying to go around the outside? Surely not. No room there. Door was shut. But you can guarantee that's not the end of it. And that Porsche does look rather scratched on its rear bumper. It certainly met the front end of the Audi a few times.
So we are down to, effectively now, 16 still circulating. Konsta Lapalainen comes into the pit lane. We've also had Nicholas Nielsen and Alex Arca serve their regulation stops. But Lapalainen is still being shown, although he's in the pits, of having to do the pit stop. So maybe, now he's done it.
It'll clear once he's done it. So he can be in the pits, but it doesn't necessarily go green until it's actually completed.
Sure, and I was getting concerned that there might be something more sinister, but he's still going strong. Right, Joel Sturm back ahead of Lorenzo Patrese.
Yeah, if you remember last year, you have to do that mandatory 1 litre of fuel. And last year we had one driver, I think it was Danny Ucadella, who didn't do the 1 litre of fuel. Therefore the pit stop wasn't registered, and ultimately he found himself out of the race. Did not complete what he needed to do, as we now have Nicky Thiem coming into the pits.
Indeed so. So he will serve the mandatory stop. And Juuso Pohaka's Attempto Audi is in as well. Right, so the Lorenzo Patrese Tresor by car collection entry chases after there. Joel Sturm up towards Variante Alta once more. Behind them is Nicholas Nielsen. Now he has served his pit stop, so he's out of position effectively against these two.
We're going to end up with that situation for another couple of moments. Cars out of position, different parts of the track, and Thiem has put himself now away from Juncadella, maybe in these laps where he's got a different part of the track to play with. He can find himself a little bit of an advantage so that when Juncadella makes his pit stop, comes out behind Thiem.
Road traffic cone on the road there, as through goes Alex Arca. But as far as Neil Verhagen's gap is concerned, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Through the traffic goes the Attempto Audi, so Alex Arca 10th now after the pit stop. And Ethan Simeone has now got his 30-second stop go back next to his name. In the meantime, Alex Arca presses on. So he's still behind his teammate, Juuso Pohaka, in terms of they've both made a stop, and Nicky Thiem ahead of them is currently the best of those that have made a pit stop.
Yeah, that's stop and go 30-second penalty. Normally is the end of an increment of track limits breaches. So if he's found himself over a second faster in that particular section, then he gets a little bit of a penalty. If it's more than 2 seconds, it's more of a penalty. And so maybe he skipped across the chicane somewhere, found himself so much further up the road than he would have done if he'd done the normal circuit. That's where that stop-go penalty, 30 seconds, comes in, because it's a pretty harsh penalty, if you can imagine. Most of the penalties are drive-throughs. Stop-go means you've been a very bad boy.
Indeed.
Or girl.
So, well, potentially, yes. And right now, we have got, let's see, Alex Arca there, Juuso Pohaka, number 99, coming down towards Rivazza. Alex Arca in 66 is behind him. Now, there is Nicky Thiem, but Pohaka is only 0.8 of a second back, so we could yet get a change for the position between these two. Nicky Thiem, of course, has served his stop and therefore no longer in touch for the moment with Juncadella. Rejoining is Patrese. But Thiem needs to keep an eye on the charging Audi behind him. Juuso Pohaka, graduate of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia. Good to have him in GT racing. Came with the Mercedes last year. Now with the Audi, going well.
Not long for the rest of our top 5 to get themselves into the pits and do their mandatory pit stop. And then we'll see where we are for the second half of this race, as Nicky Team has Puhaka right on his tail.
Yeah, and it's a gap that's under a second, and it was 8/10 at the start of the lap, and it's down to 6/10 at the timing point coming through Tosa. So Puhaka is definitely on a mission, as into the pit lane out of second position comes Yuki Namoto. And do we have an incident somewhere? Do we have a yellow flag somewhere on the circuit?
Yeah, that's Sturm off the circuit somewhere.
Right. Just Joel Sturm off. Into the pits comes Yuki Namoto. Also in would be Dries van Thor and Ezekiel Perez Companc. So we're getting through most now for the stops. Verhagen, race leader, fastest lap and from pole position. This is quite a way to launch your Fanatec Esports Pro Series campaign. As Yuki Namoto takes on the litre of fuel and rejoins.
Lamborghini, one of those cars that's pretty strong across most of the circuits that are ever expanding in ACC. There's another big update due in June, which is very exciting. Oh, Namoto stopping at the end of pit lane. What's happened to Yamoto?
So he went through the pit lane okay, and the car has ground to a halt, as you rightly say, at pit out, and therefore causes a little bit of a blockage, but it ain't for moving, is it? So that means that there's going to be a reset. Technical team trying to help, but this is bad news for Yuki Namoto, and it doesn't look like anything necessarily is done.
Oh, a leader in the silver class.
Joel Sturm also excluded from the race now.
Yuki Namoto and Perez Companc dropping down. Perez Companc completed his pit stop, so that's just the timing screens catching up on where his position is now on track, which is remarkably second in our silver category.
The leader is in, and second place driver Danny Junkadea is in as well. So the last couple to serve the regulation stops come in, but it's a big gap between those two now. It's going to be interesting there to see where Nicky Team and Yusufa Puhaka blend in relative to Verhagen and Junkadea. There they are. So Nicky Team hanging on to position, keeping the flying fin behind him as they bounce over the curb.
Now the gap between Junkadea and Team before the stops around 1.5 seconds. So have they extended that advantage? From where Team and these two are on the track, you'd definitely say yes. Verhagen must already be back out on track by now, and we'll find out when Junkadea is, when that P disappears from his name. Now we're back up to speed onto the main straight here.
But it's a long pit straight, so there's still a lot of real estate to cover before you get to pit out, and Danny Junkadea has picked up a penalty.
I think that might be an automatic speeding penalty through the pit lane. Certainly has appeared straight away as soon as he left the pit stop. It puts him, it means we've got Junkadea second and Team third, so who's dropped out of the top 3 from pre-pit stops? We had somebody up there.
It's a stop go of 30 seconds to be applied. So yes, we had Verhagen, it's Namoto, isn't it?
That's the one
that's gone missing, because he is where? Has he got going again? I think he has in 10th place. So lost a massive amount of time and his class lead, but he's still in the race.
And he's still in the points as well, more importantly. And I wonder how close he is to Brendan Leach. Certainly, obviously, has the pace to get himself back up through the field, and he'll be aiming to make sure he can get as far up as possible. He only needs to get as far as Acker in 5th to win his class again, or to lead his class again.
But it's easier said than done as Nicky Team drops down now through the Acqua Minerale, makes the climb uphill, and clinging onto the side of the Mad Panda Motorsports Mercedes. Ezekiel Perez Companc turns his way up the hill, rides the curb. Great camera view that. The Mad Panda Motorsports Mercedes booms up the hill. And Nicky Team there as he heads towards Ravazza, I would suggest is creeping away again now from Yusufa Puhaka.
Well, so much for that Junkadea Team battle. Certainly a decent gap between them. But what did Junkadea do to warrant a 30-second penalty? It's not a small penalty either. So maybe, I'm just thinking out loud here, that the pit stop line for this particular version of the circuit may be different to what they're experiencing in the real world this weekend. So they're not pressing the pit stop limiter at the right time because it's not a couple of kilometres over. It is a big margin. There is Danny, still pushing on.
Yeah, like he hasn't got the message.
Well, yeah. I mean, he will have got the message, and if he doesn't go into the pits in the next 3 laps, he'll be DSQ'd and he'll be completely out. Now, you could say that maybe it's not worth him doing that stop because there are still 7 pro cars in the field, and is he going to get back up onto the likes of Luca Giotto? Probably not after a stop-go 30-second, but maybe Jan Seifert, who is here this weekend, is on the Discord trying to work out exactly what it's for and whether it can be cleared before he gets DQ'd.
Well, time is running out, but he's already 18 seconds adrift of the race leader.
Unbelievable.
So, Neil Verhagen is just trouncing everybody in this. Massively impressive debut for him. Fastest lap of the race and pole, and of course at the moment a race lead that's looking ever more like a win. But what this is going to do potentially is give Nicky Team 2nd place, Juuso Pohaka 3rd, and in silver, Dries van Voor 4th and Nicholas Nielsen 5th. So Nicholas Nielsen, with the dramas for Danny Juncker, could get into the points, which kind of goes back to what we're saying about it sometimes is worth staying out there because you don't know what will befall the people ahead of you.
Junkerdella's penalty is for speeding in pit lane. He just must have pressed the button at the wrong time. Little silly mistakes, and it's not the first time in the sim we've seen that from Danny. I'm pretty sure I remember last year it's the silliest of mistakes causing massive consequences, and when Danny's got the pace, he's got the pace to lead races and win races.
Exactly. We had that great battle, didn't we, at Monza at the start of last year between him and Arthur Rougier. But effectively now it looks like Danny Juncker is out of the race because I can't imagine that if he does do a stop and go for 30 seconds he will rejoin, and if he doesn't serve it he's going to get thrown out anyway. So up towards the line there, number 12, Luca Giotto, who made a very big name for himself in single-seaters, now coming on in GT racing all the time. He's 11th overall. There's Yuki Namoto, pleasingly, in the race again.
And in the points,
yeah.
And just under a second behind Brendan Leach in the other Lamborghini. So that will be a battle for points in the Silver Cup at 9th position. Then, can he progress and catch Perez Companc, who once again is not the star of the show, but he's there picking up decent chunky points.
A word also, I think, about Juuso Pohaka because he's had a good run and is potentially going to gain another place, maybe 2 before the end. But Neil Verhagen's advantage is now up to 20 seconds over Danny Juncker. Right, Brendan Leach is coming under attack from Yuki Namoto here. It's a 1 second gap between the two.
I wonder how much experience Brendan has in the sim, because of course New Zealander coming over and living with Dan Wells. Dan obviously a very accomplished sim racer as well from the Trofeo. He runs an import company into Asia for sims, so he probably has a sim of his own in the house. How much has Brendan been able to use that to gain experience on ACC? Certainly enough to be running inside the top 10.
Absolutely, I was suggesting that because the evidence looks pretty good for him. So out of the race now is Danny Juncker, disqualified, so he's not served the penalty, and therefore it's a 3rd driver being excluded.
So many rules to follow in the virtual world, and things to take care about, things that perhaps aren't quite the same as you've been experiencing in the real world for the weekend. And you know, that's 4 points that could have been in the pocket of the 88 Mercedes team, but unfortunately it's 0 points now.
And another yellow flag being indicated somewhere, so we had a moment out on track. Either way, Nicky Team then into 2nd place, Juuso Pohaka 3rd, and the leading Silver Cup car now is out of Alex Arca, and he is 4th overall. 2nd of the silvers is Ezekiel Perez Companc, 3rd of the silvers Brendan Leach, and this is Yuki Namoto's view, and he is determined to be 3rd of the silvers. Arguably he should be the class leader, but after his dramas leaving the pit lane, 3rd is what he's striving for right now. He's got 18.5 minutes in which to try to do it. Flicks the car into Piratella. Car tries to get away from him. He saves it. You can see the effort being put in here by the Japanese driver.
Yeah, one of the things I've learned over the years with the ACC platform, to get the best out of these cars, you really do have to be very aggressive with them, far more aggressive than perhaps you would be in the real world. You really can throw them in, you can put more lock into the steering, and that's the way to get the best kind of performance. Don't worry too much about scrubbing the tyres and overheating the tyres. You can, of course, do that, But Yuki is looking very, very aggressive here, very late on the brakes, and actually scares Brendan Leach into the gravel just a little bit. Leach runs wide. This is the opportunity for Yuki Namoto.
So he's got a toe coming up towards the line. He pulls out of the draft now, makes his move. Side by side they run up towards the timing line. Yuki Namoto on the outside here, but it's going to be the inside on the run up towards Tamburello. The road will come to him. This is for 8th overall. It is for 3rd in the Silver Cup, and Yuki Namoto goes through, makes the move stick. Really nice move that, heading into Tamburello. There's applause from the arena for the job as well. And so through goes Yuki Namoto. Behind them is Luca Giotto, who is closing a little bit. So Namoto 8th overall now. Next target 6 seconds up the road, Nicholas Nielsen.
Here is Brendan trying to fight back. He knows that that was a mistake from him into Ravazza, missing the apex, which allowed that pass to happen. But we have seen him being able to match the pace of Yamato over the last couple of laps. Still got that yellow flag out on circuit. Not sure what it's for. Maybe we've got a car just parked up on the side of the circuit, not necessarily doing anything.
I'm not aware that anybody has lost a lap, but it seems to have been out for quite some time. Look back from Namoto's car. Leach coming under attack from Giotto.
Well, go figure. One of them's got a yellow flag and one of them hasn't. It's the same race.
Yeah, quite. So look at the forward-facing one. There's a yellow. If you look back, there's a green. So the car of Brendan Leach, middle of all of this. Perhaps the screen's reflecting the livery of Yuki Namoto's car with the green and yellow colour scheme. Down the hill he comes. 16 minutes on the clock. Neil Verhagen, remember him? He's now 22 seconds ahead of Nicky Tim. He's very nearly in round 2 of the championship. So far ahead is he? But it's a masterly performance this by Neil Verhagen, no question about it.
Brendan really using the track and more there, right on the edge. But you know, when you see drivers flashing the lights and moving around behind somebody else, there is that yellow flag flying.
Maybe it's for that cone.
Oh, it's for the cone.
Still lying on the ground. Yeah.
Bless.
Call the cones hotline. 21 seconds the margin between the top two. Namoto still keeping Brendan Leach at bay, but it's only half a second between them. It's a good little Lamborghini fight going on here. BS versus Leipert.
Yeah, I was saying, when you see these cars moving around in the mirrors and flashing and trying to distract the car in front, so often it doesn't do anything. But in the case of Brendan Leach on that particular occasion, the dive that didn't really happen from Yamato did distract him enough to push him wide and effectively create the passing move. So it was worth Yamato doing that kind of dummy dive down the inside just to put him off.
Again, Brendan Leach there a little bit wide into the corner, slightly off the apex. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, but the pace that he's got suggests that he's going to be able to claw some of that back under braking here as well as he can. But don't forget, behind Brendan Leach, there is Luca Giotto, who is closer to Brendan than Brendan is to Yuki Namoto up the road. So Luca Giotto could be the real factor in this. If he can clear Brendan Leach, might be able to go after Yuki Namoto as well.
Maybe that is one of the reasons why Brendan can't be quite as aggressive here to get back past Yamato, because he's got Giotto just behind, because he can't necessarily go too aggressively on the attack, which would then perhaps force an attack from Giotto behind.
So to the timing line they come. 14 minutes still on the clock.
There is Brendan on the left-hand side, having a look around, trying to... You do find yourself getting tense when you're in these sim races. You find yourself, your neck tenses up and your wrists. And so just having to try and loosen himself up, especially when you're in combat. And this is Giotto's view of Brendan Leach. So those three drivers are in the same row, just in the opposite way around.
And look at Giotto there with his gloves on, because the feeling through the wheel is so similar to what you would get in the real race car. You feel the bumps, you feel the weight of the steering. And there, look at Giotto inching up onto the back of Brendan Leach. And if they start squabbling, it might give Yuki Namoto the chance to get away. Equally, if Giotto can dispense with Brendan Leach pretty swiftly, he might be able to go for the 8th place Lamborghini. 22 seconds is the lead margin. Nicky Team also now dropping Yusuf Ahaka. It's Pro Cup cars 1, 2 and 3. Alex Arca the leading silver, 4th overall, and Giotto here is on a mission.
See, now Brendan Leach, I wouldn't fight this too much. Don't certainly compromise being knocked out of the race, because at the moment Brendan 4th position in Silver Cup, and that's 2 points. Giotto gets past, who doesn't have any points in his particular class and is in a different class, doesn't matter at all, but they're racing drivers.
Indeed. And here they go. So Giotto now makes his move. He's going to try and get it done before Rivazza. He's on the inside for that corner, the outside for the next. And he's not going to go around the outside. And is a gap going to present itself on the inside? The answer to that is no as well.
That's a nice defensive move there from Brendan. Put the car exactly where he needed it to be. Forced Giotto to the outside and therefore for the moment protected himself, but the Audi's going to have a nice chunky slipstream.
Right, so we know the Audi is quick. Getting into the draft then, Brendan Leach for Life of Motorsport tries to hang on to the place. Giotto's going to have to brake late and it's not worth trying it there. He was a bit too far back, couldn't get it done before the corner. Nose to tail they run. 27 laps done by the race leader. And how many we've got still circulating? 14 out of the 24 that were on the grid.
And then 10 of those score points.
Yes. So the ones that lose out at the moment are those 6th and down in each class. And in terms of the silvers, that means only Luca Giotto, because there are only 6 still going, but Luca Giotto is not taking the easy option and bailing out of this. He is still a racer at heart and he wants to get past Brendan Leach, even though that won't help him for points because they're in different classes.
Yeah, Giotto, we saw him being spun around on the first lap, didn't we? So
yeah.
it's a recovery drive since the very beginning for him. And interesting that he's proving that he's got good pace. And so if he doesn't have those issues in the first lap, when we go to Paul Ricard, our next round at the start of June, we're not quite sure when that race will be as yet, because of course the endurance 6-hour race starts at 6 o'clock. So we are 6 o'clock here in Imola right now. You can't have the sim race at the same time as the real race, although people have tried that
yes.
over the years.
So the yellow flag for the rather abused cone, just to warn the drivers of that little hazard. Through they go. So Brendan Leach actually getting away a touch from Luca Giotto on that lap. We're almost into the last 10 minutes of the race then, this opening round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Pro Series, supported by new innovation partner Mobileye. Well, tell you what, the opposition are going to have to be innovative to do anything about Neil Verhagen for the next round, assuming that BMW put him into that car, because he has just been mighty.
And you look at Aston Martin, they don't really have much of a support network for sim racing. Mercedes do now, and we would expect to see the likes of Danny Yuccadello back at the sharp end once again, but Audi don't, and we've got quite a few Audi R8s in the field. Ferrari definitely do. Nicholas Nielsen, the only Ferrari representation this year. We haven't seen the Ferrari yet, in 7th position, and surely gets support from the FDA Esports team to try and boost his performance. Porsche, very much active in the world of sim racing. I don't know how much influence they have on ACC, but we did see their works team enter the online championship at the start of last year. Just one Porsche, unfortunately, out of the race. Well, there were 2, weren't there? Because Cairoli was also in one. McLaren, kinda, with McLaren Shadow. But yeah, plenty of work support, but I guess nothing quite like the way BMW have trained Niels Verhagen, thanks to Nils Naujoks.
So Verhagen it is that leads now by 24 seconds. It is a mighty, mighty gap.
I don't think we've seen a gap like it.
No, I mean, we have had races where people have fallen out of a position and stretched the gap, and you could argue that's happened to an extent here through Danny Junquedea's exclusion, but even then it was about 18, 19 seconds. So it really is a credit to Neil Verhagen, the pace that he's got here. Luca Giotto, again, all over at the back here, and Brendan Leach, he's closed the gap right down again. This is 9th and 10th overall. It is Silver versus Pro, Leach versus Giotto.
And actually, Brendan Leach has brought the gap down to Yamamoto as well. It was over 2 seconds the last lap, so the whole of those 3 have concertinaed back together again. And that is worth fighting for Brendan Leach, because that means more points in his particular class.
Luca Giotto bouncing the car over the curb there as he comes down through Acqua Minerale. So yellow flag being shown down there a moment ago as well. But as the race leader currently is on lap number 31, he's well clear of Nicky Team. What else is happening out on track?
Well, Kapalainen's the fourth driver to pick up a disqualification. Not sure why, showing it as a yellow flag on circuit, but on our graphics, disqualified out of the race. And here he comes. Kyoto's very late on the brakes. There's a little bit of contact between the two of them to make the pass stick, and that's going to be one for the race stewards because he was very late. There was an opening. The door was cracked open, but he had to really force the issue.
Indeed so. Well, he's done it. He's gone by. Whether it remains as his position, we'll have to wait and see. But through he goes then. Luca Giotto now up into ninth. Next target is Namoto. He's 2.6 seconds back. He's got time in which to do it.
So that Kapalainen was in the points, I think,
yes,
wasn't he? So that's promoted Patrese and, would you believe, Jeff Kinsley into the points. No, Patrese's got the last point in the Silver Cup at the moment, but Kinsley's well off the pace, but, you know, just be in it to win it.
Yeah, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next 6.5 minutes. So there, Nicky Team soldiering on, 24 seconds back from Neil Verhagen, but even if you can't win, it's 4 points for the team for the end of the season, which is going to be very useful indeed. Comes now up through the Variante Alta, gets a little bit squirrely there as he gets the car loose over the curb. About the Beach Dean backed Aston, heads downhill once again. Giuseppe Hacker, having been a bit of a shadow to him a few laps back, has now fallen markedly away. 4 seconds adrift is Hacker in third spot.
We didn't see too much of an influence in the Teams Championship in the Pro category last year, but we did see how it affected the Silver category. It was very, very close between our champions, and certainly what happened in the virtual world had a real effect in the real world teams standings at the end of the year. So now that we've made it even more influential with 5 points for the win rather than 3 points for the win, we certainly will see come the end of the year how the ones that have taken it seriously will have definitely benefited for their championship. There is Jeff Kinsley getting out of the way, blue flags flying for him. He's still here, and if one more of those cars in the Silver Cup drop out, he will have a point.
And Janis Fittier, although he's not been circulating for many laps, has also now been disqualified according to the stewarding channel in Discord because he has been static for many laps in a dangerous place.
Yeah, so effectively he hasn't pressed escape, has he? He's parked up on the side of the road, and rather than escaping out of the game, he's just basically got out of his rig and walked off.
Yes,
leaving the car.
But in an awkward position, which has gone down badly with the race officials. So Ryan Gill, who is the race director and the chief steward, has decided that an exclusion is required for that as well.
Probably back in his garage. He has no idea.
No idea about it. No, quite. So this is the man that has absolutely dominated things this evening. It is Neil Verhagen who comes through. So the BMW, exact in every sense to the race car that he'll be behind the wheel of first for qualifying tomorrow, one of the 3 sessions, and then of course for the 3-hour endurance race that kicks off the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS Endurance Cup. Verhagen out of Tamburello. He could really afford to back the pace right off, but he's going to squeeze, certainly I would think, this and 1 more, maybe 2 more laps out of it after this.
Shout out to all the guys putting this together, because of course brand new liveries here in Imola for the first time. Some of the teams might have not necessarily finalised their liveries until the very last minute, and yet all 24 cars with the brand new liveries for 2022 in game, even before these cars have raced in the real world for the first time. So
it's true, yes.
The likes of BMW would have provided that months and months ago, super organised, but there are teams out there that perhaps will have just decided to tweak it here and there and literally on Wednesday turn up with a new livery.
Indeed, and of course all the cars in game, as in the real world, carrying the Mobileye stickers on the rear, and there you can see it as Yuki Namoto blasts past. They're down towards Tamburello, and so this car that is 8th, 3rd in class, but should have been so much better really, but for that drama leaving the pit lane. 3 more minutes are on the clock. At the end of the race we'll get a chance to hear from the 2 class winners, and then there will be of course the podium as it is within the arena.
Which is a podium this year. We have steps and everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And of course the checks, which have been such a positive thing, quite hard to bank because they are quite large, but the €6,000 check for our winner across both classes, also worth fighting for our drivers.
True enough. Well, Neil Verhagen can treat everyone to a drink out of his winnings because he's made them look a bit pedestrian this evening. He is so far up the road it is not true. That is Yuki Namoto then, who is 2.9 seconds back at the start of the lap and actually hasn't brought it down much around the lap either. Brendan Leach dropping away just a little bit, just over a second adrift now of the Audi there. So through goes Yuki Namoto. So what is it, 2.9 seconds back from Yuki Namoto. But the big frustration here for Luca is that he's 6th and the only one not to score that finishes in the pro category.
Yeah.
Credit to him for keeping going though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he'll be gaining valuable mileage for next time. Of course, the teams can swap out their drivers throughout the season, so these are points for the team rather than points for the driver. And we always talk about Arthur Rouget winning the championship, but that's because he did all the different races for Emil Frey last year. But actually, Emil Frey won the championship as a team because had Rouget not done a race and been replaced by somebody else, still those points would have gone towards the same cumulative that Rouget was putting together. So we might see some of the drivers who have not got on so well with the ACC platform swap out for different drivers. I mean, we see it in the endurance category anyway, drivers coming in and out. Yes. So if a driver comes in for a weekend who's got great experience on the sim, then we might see him in the Fanatec Arena.
Indeed so, but there's no argument about the fact that it's been a mighty performance by Neil Verhagen in the BMW. It runs in the BMW M colours, but it's a Rover Racing entry as it comes then through the Tamburello chicane. He's on his last lap, so the multi-bank liveried car on target for a victory. First time we've seen Neil in the championship, and what a debut.
And first time we've seen the M4 on this championship. Different car used by Pittard last year, different team with Valkenhorst as well. And the same assistance from effectively BMW Works driver Niels Naujoks. BMW supporting 4 different teams last year across esports, and Niels was part of the G2 esports team at that point. Since has moved to BS Competition, which is far more closely associated to BMW itself, and therefore, whilst he's not here, he is on the Discord channel talking Neil Verhagen round this circuit. We'll probably be listening to us at the same time. We'll be watching the stream, seeing what other information he can glean from other competitors, but actually it didn't really matter. Neil Verhagen's just got the pace.
But it does illustrate how seriously this virtual world of racing is taken. I think still to a lot of people it's treated as a game, it's a bit of fun. You might get into a rig and drive a simulated car, but I don't think many people appreciate the backstory to it. And if you like, the backroom boys working with the driver to make it all happen. The flag is going to be out this time. It is going to be a win, and a dominant win for Neil Verhagen, who works his way out of Rivazza, heads now up towards the timing line, and it is going to be a win for BMW. It is going to be a win for an all-smiling Neil Verhagen. Checker flag is at the ready, and honours go to Neil Verhagen. He wins round 1 of the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series. A great drive. Completely unruffled about that. Gets his breath back, but absolutely dominant. Nicky Team is going to be on target for 2nd place. First time we've seen Nicky in the championship too. And then Yusup Pohaka is on target for 3rd spot as the Audi heads out of Rivazza. But there for 2nd is Nicky Team. Takes the checkered flag, and 3rd will go the way of Yusup Pohaka. But there is a very, very happy Neil Verhagen. A mighty drive that. He's still having instructions and advice and information offered to him through the Discord channel. But Neil Verhagen it is then that takes the race victory by 20 seconds over Nicky Team in 2nd spot. And 3rd to Yusup Pohaka, 4th Alex Arco, Dries Van Thor taking 5th, Ezequiel Perez Compac finishing in 6th spot. So we'll be able to have a chance to hear from our category winners, and it is Neil Verhagen then who takes the outright win. And Ben, he's all yours.
Thank you very much, David. Down into the arena here. What a wonderful crowd that we've got in the arena, all watching what's going on and standing beside a very, very happy BMW Works driver, Neil Verhagen, who has absolutely dominated today, Neil. Do you really expect it to be that much of a walk in the park?
No, to be honest, I didn't, and it really wasn't a walk in the park. I had my work cut out for me. I was just trying to be as consistent as possible and not making any mistakes. I nailed my pit stop, and then from there I was able just to keep my head down. So I'd like to really thank Niels Najak's coaching. He really helped me a lot. He helped me understand the game a lot, and it really, really helped me. I'd like to thank BMW Motorsport for the opportunity and Fanatec for the great gear that they gave me here today.
Just explain how much preparation has gone into this. I know you were saying you don't have a rig at home, but you've obviously done a lot of practice and managed to absolutely set up this M4 perfectly.
Yeah, thank you to BMW Motorsport, because I don't have a sim at home, and they allowed me to use one of their simulators, so this really helped. To be able to prepare before the event, it definitely made a difference, and thanks again to Nils, because without him it wouldn't have been possible.
Well, congratulations. If you head over to the podium, we'll get yourself the awards over to you in a second. Now, I've got to find myself over to Alex Acker, which of course is the other end of the arena. We practice this though. I can walk and talk at the same time, just to avoid the speaker. And we'll head over to Alex, who's won the Silver Cup. And it's all about consistency in, well, actually, the whole of the field, to be honest, just making sure that you get to the end. And Alex, congratulations, the cap is already on you. How was your race? You've done this before though, this is your second season, so you have a bit of experience.
Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah, it was quite fun. I was just cruising around basically because like I've seen my competitors being like pushing each other out, so I was just keeping it cool, keeping it simple. Yeah, it's my third race actually in this Fanatec racing series. It's actually great fun, and yeah. So we're here.
And it is fun, but it also means a lot because you guys contribute those real World Championship points to your team. How much does the team manager ask of you when you come over here in the evenings?
Well, I don't know yet. I'll have to talk to him, but I think he will be quite happy. So I hope he is, because I'm quite happy, and yeah, it's a good feature as well to actually win points as well. Like it's a good thing.
Oh, congratulations, and thank you very much for talking to us. If we're top three, you're going to go and head over to the podium. We'll get that started in just a second, but back to you, David, with the official result.
Thanks very much, Ben. So we know then that it is a victory for the somewhat dominant Neil Verhagen. We will have the confirmed result as soon as we can, but in the meantime, let's have a look at some of the highlights of what was certainly a dramatic start to a race, but it all happened rather behind Neil Verhagen, who was able to build that lead early on. We had cars bouncing onto the grass early, such as Corsa Lapalainen in the Lamborghini. We had Joel Sturm, I think it was, being squeezed towards the grass on the outside, and then it all kicked off mid-grid, and Matteo Cairoli's car being absolutely harpooned, battered from pillar to post. And that was the end of him. He got up and walked out of the game as off the road went Luca Giotto. Now he recovered from that, but he missed out on a valuable championship point. But fair play to Luca Giotto because he stayed within the race. But up front, there was absolutely no stopping Neil Verhagen. He was able to build that gap over the opposition and continue to pull clear of the rest. This is how it looked on board for some as the contact turned cars sideways. And Corsa Lapalainen was another one who lost out. Another incident that very nearly lost Lucas Legere from the race. He got a tap from behind, but the exclusions were soon coming as the penalties were applied. A legacy of that first drama. Brendan Leach lining up Joel Sturm for a move. The Lamborghini on the tail of the Porsche. They were nose to tail as they came through, but Joel Sturm just able to fend him off as they got to the timing line, but up to Tamburello. Leach made his move stick on the inside and went through. The Lamborghini ahead of the Porsche, but only just as Joel Sturm was crawling all over the back of him. Plenty more battles going on, but plenty more hard luck stories. Ethan Simeone, for example, given penalties and dropping out of the race. But he found a way past Lucas Legere in the meantime. And let us turn our attention away for a moment from the highlights to the podium at the end of round one of the championship, and let's rejoin Ben Constanduros.
Thank you very much, David. We are going to get our two podium ceremonies underway then. We're going to start with the silver category and with the most unlucky driver, I think, so far that we've seen. In third position for Vincenzo Sospiri Motorsport, it is Yuki Namoto. You might recognise this man from our podiums before. In second position for Mad Panda Motorsport, Esquil Perez Companc. And your winner in the silver category for Assetto Racing, Alex Acker. And please welcome onto the podium Stefan Rattel, who is going to present our top 3 checks. It's €2,500 nonetheless to our third position driver, Yuki Namoto. Second place receives €4,000 to Mad Panda Motorsport. Happy days, that's dinner. And €6,000 to our winner, Alex Acker. Make sure we get a quick trophy, and of course there is these beautiful pedal trophies from Fanatec. We had the steering wheels last year, but these pedal ones look absolutely awesome. So you can't build a sim out of it, but you could try. That is your top 3 from the silver category. We reset the podium for 1 second, and we will get our pro podium underway. Please welcome onto the podium for Assetto Racing in third position, Yuki Namoto. In second position for Beach Team AMR, it's Nicky Team. And absolutely dominating for BMW Roll Racing's Neil Verhagen. Probably the biggest domination that we've seen in the Pro Series so far. Presenting the checks for the top 3 from Fanatec is Thomas Jackemeyer, and it's €2,500 to our third place driver, Yusi Pukaha. In second position, €4,000 to Nicky Team. And the €6,000 check to our winner, the Dominator, Neil Verhagen. Well, that is our 2 podiums done and dusted. There might have been the chaos down at the tail end of the field, but at the sharp end we have seen seriously professional sim racing once again, and great to see these famous names standing on this famous podium. We've got to take a couple of weeks to reset, and we will see you at the next round of the championship from Paul Ricard. Until then, enjoy your sim racing. Bye-bye.